Anna burst from the house, her trembling hands gripping her thin coat as if it were a lifeline. The biting wind screamed through the desolate fields, yet she pressed on, her heart pounding as she sprinted toward the looming barn in the distance. The oppressive darkness enveloped her, a heavy shroud that swallowed the world whole. Only the dim flicker of the lantern outside the barn pierced the night, its glow beckoning like a distant lighthouse, urging her to draw nearer. She came to a sudden stop before the imposing wooden door, her heart racing with such intensity that it seemed ready to explode from her chest. Within the dimly lit space, the gentle yet purposeful sound of hooves shuffling reverberated, as if the horse was anticipating her arrival, or perhaps possessed an uncanny awareness of her approach. With a determined shove, Clara swung the door wide, the eerie creak of the hinges shattering the heavy silence that enveloped her. Stallion loomed before her, a figure of imposing stature, his piercing black eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. With a deep breath, she steeled herself, each step toward the horse measured and purposeful. The air in the barn hung thick with an unspoken weight, each breath and every subtle shift laden with a meaning that eluded her grasp. "You were waiting for me, weren't you?" Her voice emerged as a fragile whisper, delicate and laden with secrets. Orion tilted his head slightly, a subtle movement that resonated with unspoken understanding. His gaze was electric, a deep well of understanding that ensnared Clara, leaving her paralyzed, unable to tear her eyes from his piercing stare. After years of feeling invisible, a spark ignited within her as she realized, for the first time, that someone truly saw her, truly heard her. Something she had never experienced with Matthias. A tumultuous wave of emotion surged within her, a blend of solace and danger that left her breathless. As she extended her hand, her fingers glided over Orion's mane, absorbing the warmth of his body that flowed into her very fingertips. It surged through her, an electric current racing down her spine, and in that instant, she understood that her life had been forever altered. The wind howled outside, a relentless force, but Clara had grown deaf to its cries. All that surrounded her dissolved into an eerie hush. Only she and Orion remained, entwined in a burgeoning secret that slithered through the shadows, a flame ready to spark into chaos. Clara stood frozen in the barn, her fingers lightly tracing Orion's mane, her eyes drifting into the vast emptiness beyond. With her eyes shut tight, she drew in a deep breath, letting the rich aromas of dry hay, moist earth, and the gentle warmth of the horse beside her envelop her senses. In this serene sanctuary, she sensed a profound escape from it all. The chilling emptiness of the house, Matthias's hollow gazes, and the relentless loneliness that had gnawed at her spirit for what felt like an eternity. Memories surged within her, crashing over her like a relentless tidal wave. Once, Clara held a fierce belief that love possessed the power to overcome any obstacle. Once she and Matthias burned bright like twin flames, fierce and unyielding, bound together in an unbreakable bond. She recalled the moment their paths first crossed, when Matthias had unleashed a torrent of laughter that left her breathless, tears of joy cascading down her cheeks, captivated by his effortless charm and sharp wit. She remembered the endless evenings by the crackling fire, where they wove together dreams of a radiant future. In those days, Matthias had vowed to stand by her side, crafting a life together that would be etched in their hearts forever. Yet, as the years slipped away, those promises transformed into a distant luxury, fading like whispers in the wind. Matthias immersed himself in his work, drowning in a sea of endless meetings and business trips that dragged on for what felt like an eternity. Clara found herself lost in the memories, struggling to recall the last time they shared a dinner without the relentless buzz of his phone breaking the silence. Each time he stepped through the door, it felt as though he was welcoming a stranger into his own life. He would stride in, toss his bag aside, wrap her in a fleeting embrace, and then vanish behind the glow of his laptop screen. Clara fought with every ounce of her being to cling to what remained. She crafted candlelit dinners, attempting to breathe life into their faded conversations. Yet Matthias met her efforts with the same tired refrain, his indifference a heavy cloud hanging over them. "I'm utterly exhausted, Clara. Shall we continue this conversation later?" But the moment they had longed for never arrived. She once held the conviction that time possessed the power to mend all wounds, yet in its relentless passage, it merely deepened the rift that separated them. Matthias was not a villain in the shadows. He was neither unfaithful nor angry, nor did he neglect in the ways one might expect. Yet, his indifference wrapped around Clara like a shroud, leaving her to feel as though she was gradually vanishing, a mere specter haunting the corridors of her own marriage. When Matthias acquired Orion, she believed it was merely another passing fascination of his. Yet, amidst the dullness of her routine, Orion emerged as the sole beacon of light in Clara's life. In the depths of the horse's soulful eyes, she discovered a tranquility that had eluded her for years. Yet there was more to it than that. Clara's mind was haunted by the memory of her first encounter with Serafina, the enigmatic horse trainer brought in by Matthias. Serafina was a force to be reckoned with, her piercing gaze cutting through the layers of pretense that surrounded her. Yet, beneath her stoic exterior lay a profound sadness, a whisper of the battles she had fought within herself. Serafina was a woman of few words, yet when she chose to speak, her voice pierced through the silence like arrows, striking at the very truths Clara had spent years evading. That afternoon lingered in her mind, a vivid tableau of her and Serafina standing outside the barn, their voices weaving through the air as they spoke of Orion. Serafina's eyes locked onto Clara's, a piercing intensity that seemed to strip away every facade, and then she uttered a sentence that would echo in Clara's mind forever. Horses like Orion possess an uncanny ability to perceive the truths that humans often deny. In the depths of solitude, an unbreakable connection can emerge, born from the very essence of isolation. In that moment, Clara merely offered a polite smile, dismissing it as if it were nothing more than a fleeting shadow. But now, as she faced Orion, Serafina's words reverberated in her mind, heavy with the weight of destiny. She fought against the thought, but deep down, a nagging feeling whispered that maybe, just maybe, Serafina had been right all along. It was the profound loneliness, the void that Matthias could never fill, that had inexorably pulled her toward Orion, each step a silent surrender to the inevitable. Her fingers glided gently through Orion's mane, the warmth radiating beneath her touch, igniting a sense of connection that transcended the ordinary. "You know, Orion," she whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence that enveloped them, "there are moments when I find myself yearning to be a horse, just like you." There were no worries, no battles to wage. Only the exhilarating taste of freedom that filled the air. Orion remained silent, yet his eyes spoke volumes, conveying a deep understanding that words could never capture. In that instant, a wave of relief washed over Clara, momentary yet profound. Yet, beneath the surface, she felt the undeniable shift of everything around her, a tide of change that left no room for retreat. Moonlight poured over the fields, casting an ethereal glow on the narrow path that wound its way to the barn. Anna moved deliberately, each step heavy with an unseen pull, drawing her inexorably closer to Orion. The wind howled with increasing ferocity, its icy fingers clawing at her skin, yet she remained unfazed. Deep within her a storm was brewing, an indistinct yet powerful force, as if her heart was beckoning her toward a truth that eluded her understanding. The barn door swung open with a haunting creak, the hinges protesting against the heavy silence that enveloped the night. Orion lingered in the stillness, his deep, shadowy eyes glinting with the ethereal glow of the moonlight. In that instant, Clara sensed the very fabric of her reality unraveling. Lucas had disappeared, leaving behind the chilling silence of distant phone calls and the haunting solitude of endless evenings. It was just her and Orion, an unspoken bond weaving them together, a connection that needed no words to define its depth. "You were here waiting for me once more, weren't you?" she whispered, her voice a hushed echo of a stolen secret, weaving an air of intrigue around her words. She moved in, her fingers gliding softly over Orion's glossy black mane. The horse's warm breath whispered against her, a gentle caress that wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, offering a silent promise of safety in the stillness of the moment. Her fingers danced over the sleek strands of his coat, a gentle caress that spoke of intimacy and connection. The heaviness in her chest began to dissolve, giving way to an unfamiliar calm that enveloped her like a gentle embrace. But then the atmosphere changed dramatically. Clara found herself lost in a fog of uncertainty, unable to grasp the reason behind her impulsive decision. Perhaps it was the intensity in Orion's gaze, or the subtle inclination of his head that seemed to embrace her touch. Perhaps it was the tempest raging within her, the crushing loneliness, the deep yearning, and the gaping void that she had never managed to fill. Her hand lingered on the side of his face, her palm resting softly against his warmth, a moment suspended in time. With her eyes shut tight, she inhaled deeply, drawing in the world around her. Yet even that breath quivered. Orion. His name escaped her lips, not as a summons but as a revelation. The horse shifted, its powerful frame quivering as it lowered its head, a silent acknowledgement of the moment's weight. He stood there, a statue of stillness, yet his presence pulsed with an uncanny awareness that made Clara feel as if he could pluck the thoughts from the depths of her mind, unraveling the secrets she dared not speak. His gaze locked onto hers, profound and unwavering, offering no judgment and asking for nothing, yet it held an irresistible pull that ensnared her attention completely. Her breath came in ragged gasps. She edged nearer, the distance between them feeling like an insurmountable void that demanded to be crossed. A heavy silence lingered in the air, stretching between them, charged with an electric anticipation that seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. Her hand lingered on Orion's chest, sensing the steady, powerful rhythm of his heart thrumming beneath her fingertips. Yet within her, a tumultuous rhythm pulsed, a chaotic drumbeat that threatened to unravel her very composure. In that moment her mind went blank. In that moment, for the very first time, every shred of reason, every whisper of morality, and all the voices of logic faded into an eerie silence. She found herself engulfed by the intensity of her emotions, a part of her that had been buried deep within, now clawing its way to the surface after years of silence. With a single tentative step and a subtle shift of her weight, Clara felt her entire world shatter around her. She had become a shadow of her former self. She had shed the weary, empty shell of Clara that she once was. She was a woman engulfed by emotions that were foreign to her, each one a tempest stirring within her soul. But then a whisper of sound shattered the silence. Clara recoiled, as though she had been violently pulled from a vivid nightmare. A faint shaft of light pierced the darkness of the barn, and in that fleeting moment her heart froze. Serafina lingered in the doorway, her piercing gaze as sharp as a dagger, locking onto Clara with an intensity that could cut through the air. Silence enveloped the room, yet Clara felt the weight of unspoken truths pressing against her. She knew. Serafina had witnessed it all. The air in the barn hung heavy and still, as if time itself had come to a standstill. Serafina stood frozen, her face a canvas of astonishment and icy deliberation, as if she were meticulously unraveling the intricate web of the scene that lay before her. Anna parted her lips, ready to voice her thoughts, yet silence enveloped her, leaving her words trapped within. Her breath escaped in the frigid night, a silent confession lingering in the darkness. Shame, guilt, and fear weighed heavily on her chest, yet deep within, a strange sense of relief flickered to life. A wave of relief washed over her as the weight of her secret slipped from her shoulders, no longer hers to carry in solitude. Clara stood at the edge of the world, her heart racing with anticipation. The wind whispered secrets through the trees, beckoning her to take the first step into the unknown. Shadows danced around her, hinting at the adventures that awaited just beyond the horizon. With a deep breath, she embraced the thrill of the journey ahead, ready to uncover the mysteries that lay in wait. Serafina's voice sliced through the stillness, steady yet resolute. "What do you believe you are doing?" The question sliced through the silence, sharp and unforgiving. Serafina entered the barn, each step deliberate, as if the very air around her held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Clara stumbled back, her heart racing, but Orion remained steadfast, a solid anchor amidst the chaos swirling around them. I stood at the edge of the precipice, the wind howling around me, carrying whispers of secrets long buried. Below, the abyss yawned, a dark void that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. My heart raced, each beat echoing in the silence of the night, as I took a step closer, drawn by an unseen force. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow that illuminated the jagged rocks, and the swirling mists that danced like phantoms. In that moment I knew I was on the brink of something extraordinary, a journey that would change everything I thought I knew. The air crackled with anticipation, and I could feel the weight of destiny pressing down on me, urging me to leap into the unknown. Uncertainty loomed like a thick fog, wrapping around every thought, leaving only the haunting echo of doubt in its wake. "I don't know." Clara's voice quivered, each word a fragile whisper that barely escaped her lips. Serafina halted mere feet away, her piercing gaze drilling into the depths of Clara's soul. Can you grasp the direction this is taking? Serafina inquired. Her voice a whisper, yet each word struck with the force of a hammer. You're toying with flames, Clara, and when they ignite, there will be nothing left to reclaim. Clara found herself at a loss for words. She stood there, locked in a gaze with Serafina, as a tempest of emotions raged within her. She felt the weight of truth in Serafina's words. She felt the weight of truth in those words. Yet, despite that knowledge, she found herself unable to pull away. Not at this moment. Not when she had already stepped into a realm she once believed was beyond her grasp. Serafina stood resolutely before Clara, her eyes piercing like a finely honed weapon. The air in the barn was heavy with an unbearable tension, wrapping around Clara like a vice, making each breath feel like a struggle for survival. She found herself ensnared by Serafina's gaze, unable to escape the weight of what had just transpired, and devoid of any words that could possibly rationalize her choices. Did you truly believe this would remain hidden, Clara? Serafina's voice held a steady cadence, but beneath the surface simmered a tempest of restrained fury. Did you believe that no one would see the transformation within you, the shift in your gaze each time you step out of this barn? Clara stepped back, her fingers gripping Orion's mane tightly, as if it were the sole anchor preventing her from shattering into a million pieces. Yet Orion, the horse she had once thought could red her soul, now stood in eerie silence. Silence enveloped the air, thick and heavy, as an unseen force loomed, observing every detail from an unfathomable distance. I stood at the edge of the precipice, the wind howling around me like a restless spirit. Below, the churning waters crashed against the jagged rocks, a symphony of chaos that mirrored the turmoil within my heart. Each breath felt heavy, laden with the weight of choices yet to be made. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an ethereal glow that painted the sky in hues of crimson and gold. In that moment, time seemed to stretch, and I could feel the pulse of destiny thrumming in the air, urging me forward into the unknown. I didn't mean to, Clara croaked, her voice a raspy whisper that hung in the air like a fragile thread. She understood that her words fell like whispers in a storm, lost and unheard. She couldn't deny the truth of Serafina's vision, yet words eluded her, lost in a tempest of emotions that engulfed her, pulling her under like a relentless storm. Unintended consequences? Serafina's laughter pierced the silence, a brief, sharp sound laced with a bitter edge of irony. Clara, this isn't a mere coincidence. This is a deliberate choice, and deep down, you are fully aware of the path you've chosen. Serafina's words hit Clara with the force of a punch, but rather than remorse, she found herself teetering on the brink of an abyss. The tempest within her raged, a tumult of shame, anger, and an aching desire, building to a crescendo, poised to erupt at any moment. What makes it matter to you? Clara's voice erupted, sharper than she had meant, teetering on the edge of a shout. This is my life. A tapestry woven with threads of struggle and solitude. You stand on the outside, unaware of the shadows that linger in my heart, oblivious to the depths of my loneliness. Serafina's gaze remained unyielding. You're right, Serafina replied, her voice low, yet laden with unspoken truths. But I am certain of one thing. You are unraveling, and in your wake you're dragging everyone else down with you. Clara felt vulnerable, laid open to the world. She stood there, caught in the web of Serafina's cold, piercing gaze and the eerie silence that enveloped Orion. All the justifications, all the excuses she had woven for herself now lay shattered, devoid of meaning. She was a woman ensnared, engulfed by emotions that twisted and turned beyond her grasp. Lucas will never understand, Clara murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, as if the very air around them held secrets too heavy to bear. She averted her gaze, the moonlight spilling through the barn wall's crevices illuminating her eyes with a haunting glow. He has never truly grasped the depths of my being. Not at all. So this is the reason behind your actions? Serafina edged forward, the space between them dwindling to mere footsteps. Clara, I stand before you without judgment. Yet, it is crucial for you to grasp the depth of this situation. Your actions won't lead you to the liberation you believe awaits you. It will only plunge everything into deeper chaos. Clara felt the fire of frustration rising within her, a desperate urge to scream that Serafina was utterly oblivious to the truth. Yet, how could she possibly refute the undeniable truth woven into Serafina's words? How could she possibly turn a blind eye to the truth that she had stepped over a threshold from which there was no return? A jarring sound shattered the stillness, slicing through the quiet like a razor's edge. Clara's body went rigid, her gaze darting sharply toward the source of the noise. The car's headlights pierced the night, their beam cutting through the shadows of the field with a sharp, relentless intensity. Lucas stood at the edge of the world, the air thick with anticipation, as shadows danced around him, whispering secrets of the unknown. Her heart seized, a chilling wave washing over her as she found herself frozen, unable to move. Serafina's eyes darted to Clara, her piercing stare easing just a fraction, a fleeting spark of unexpected empathy dancing in her gaze. "You must make a choice, Clara," Serafina urged, her voice softened yet unwavering. "At this very moment, confront the consequences of your actions, or allow yourself to be swallowed by the chaos you've created." Anna's heart raced as Lucas's car approached, the headlights slicing through the darkness and casting an eerie glow on her pale, haunted expression. Uncertainty gripped her as she stood there, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts, each one more chaotic than the last. She felt the weight of the moment pressing down, leaving her utterly unprepared for the words or actions that might follow. Every secret, every buried feeling, hung precariously on the edge of revelation, threatening to spill forth at any moment. "Anna," Serafina declared one final time, her voice resolute and unyielding, "this is your moment to decide, and the weight of that decision rests solely on your shoulders." Clara's gaze flickered between Serafina and Orion, her heart racing as she turned to face the oncoming headlights that sliced through the darkness. Amidst the tumultuous chaos of her thoughts, her heart beat with a fierce clarity, a beacon of guidance cutting through the noise, urging her forward. In that instant, a chilling truth washed over her. There was no escape. The headlights sliced through the enveloping darkness, casting a harsh glow on the barn door and revealing every nuance of Clara's terrified expression with haunting precision. She stood frozen, a statue in a world where time had ceased to exist. Serafina hesitated, creating a chasm of uncertainty for Clara. Yet she remained rooted in place. Serafina's piercing gaze, typically icy and unrelenting, now radiated a quiet, vigilant patience, as if she were poised on the edge of anticipation, waiting for Clara to reveal her ultimate choice. The car screeched to a halt, dust swirling around it as it loomed ominously at the threshold of the barn. Lucas emerged, his towering figure stretching a dark silhouette beneath the blinding glare of the headlights. The car door slammed shut with a resounding thud, and an eerie silence enveloped the surroundings. With a moment of uncertainty, he surveyed the surroundings, his heart racing, before cautiously making his way toward the barn. "Anna? Is anyone inside?" Lucas called, his voice steady and composed, just as it had always been. But to Clara, it resonated like thunder rumbling through the quiet night. She pivoted to face him, their gazes locking in a charged moment, and in that heartbeat, she understood he held a secret. Perhaps it was shrouded in ambiguity, or maybe it was a primal intuition, but he felt it deep within him. "I couldn't sleep," she confessed, her voice striving for steadiness, yet the quiver in her breath revealed the turmoil within. "I felt an urgent need to reach out and see how Orion was doing." As Lucas entered the barn, his gaze flickered between Clara and Serafina, the latter lingering a few paces away, a silent specter cloaked in stillness. His brows knitted together, eyes darting between the two women, sensing the unvoiced tension that lingered thickly in the confined space. "What's happening? Is there something beneath the surface?" he inquired, his voice laced with curiosity, his gaze piercing through the silence. Serafina remained silent. Clara understood deep down that she never would. This was her moment to confront the truth, to embrace the weight of all she had fought so hard to conceal. All eyes were fixed on her, and she sensed that every path had converged into a singular, intense moment. She could weave another lie, extending the stifling weight of secrets and guilt that clung to her like a shadow. Or she could stand tall against it all, the shame, the pain, and the vulnerability that had haunted her, a darkness she had long feared to confront. Her gaze darted to Serafina, whose serene demeanor masked a fierce, unrelenting challenge beneath the surface. Then to Lucas, whose eyes, heavy with concern, sparkled with a hint of skepticism that she couldn't shake off. She felt the weight of inevitability pressing down on her. The relentless chase had to end. She couldn't keep running forever. "Lucas," she began, her voice heavy with unspoken feelings. I stood at the edge of the precipice, the wind howling around me, carrying whispers of secrets long buried. Below, the churning abyss beckoned, a dark void that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. My heart raced, each beat echoing in the silence of the night, as I contemplated the leap into the unknown. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching, waiting. This was a moment of reckoning, a choice that would alter the very fabric of my existence. With a deep breath, I took a step forward, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. There's something I must share with you. Lucas stood still, a flicker of bewilderment crossing his features as his gaze sharpened with uncertainty. He remained still, a silent sentinel, his eyes fixed intently on hers. Serafina tilted her head, a subtle movement that suggested she was granting them a moment of solitude. Yet she remained anchored in the shadows of the barn. Clara inhaled sharply, her heart racing as the words she longed to speak twisted and knotted within her throat. She recalled the moments when she had truly lost herself, the time she gazed into Orion's eyes and discovered the solace that Lucas had always failed to provide. As the weight of yearning, shame, and desperation pressed down on her, she realized that silence would be her eternal prison if she didn't find the courage to speak now. I felt so alone, Lucas, she whispered, her voice trembling as tears cascaded down her cheeks. The weight of it pressed down on me, a relentless force I couldn't shake off, leaving me trapped in its grasp, desperate for a way out. Everything with you, everything that binds us, now feels like a shadow of its former self, stripped of all significance. Lucas remained silent, the weight of his thoughts hanging in the air. He stood there, his gaze locked onto hers, as if he were delving deep into the very essence of her words, seeking the hidden truth that lay beneath. What are you trying to convey, Clara? His voice dripped with a low intensity, each syllable carrying the heavy burden of unspoken truths. I've been searching for solace in a place I know I shouldn't, she confessed, her voice trembling as it struggled to break free. I stood at the edge of the world, the wind howling around me, carrying whispers of secrets untold. My heart raced as I peered into the abyss, where shadows danced and the unknown beckoned. Each breath felt heavy with anticipation, as if the very air was charged with the promise of adventure. In that moment, I knew my life was about to change forever, and I was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. I've lost my way, Lucas. A line has been crossed, and the weight of it hangs heavy in the air, an unspoken truth that gnaws at the edges of my mind. Lucas recoiled, disbelief washing over him as his eyes widened, struggling to grasp the weight of the words that hung in the air. Crossed a line, he repeated, his voice gravelly, barely breaking through the silence. Clara's chest tightened, a sensation as if an unseen force was gripping her heart, squeezing it relentlessly. I can't quite put it into words, she confessed. A heavy weight settles in my chest as the realization hits me. I've crossed a line, and there's no turning back now. She steeled herself for the tempest of Lucas's fury, anticipating the roar of his voice or the thunderous sound of the door slamming behind him. Yet he chose not to. He remained rooted to the spot, his gaze locked onto hers, his expression a chaotic swirl of feelings that eluded her understanding. At last he broke the silence, his voice a deep, resonant whisper that hung in the air. Do you still love me, Clara? That seemingly innocent question tore through her remaining defenses, leaving her vulnerable and exposed. Anna gazed at him, her tears flowing unrestrained, each drop a testament to her turmoil. I'm not sure, Lucas. Uncertainty gnawed at me, leaving me adrift in a sea of confusion. Yet the desire to uncover it once more burns within me. I yearn to uncover the reasons behind our transformation into this shadow of ourselves. Serafina held her silence, yet Clara sensed her presence, unwavering and resolute, observing every moment unfold. With a heavy heart, Lucas pivoted on his heel, leaving the barn behind him, silence enveloping the air like a shroud. As his silhouette melted away into the shadows cast by the car's headlights, Clara remained rooted in place, a profound emptiness enveloping her like a heavy fog. Serafina drew closer, her piercing gaze transformed by an unexpected warmth. You did the right thing, she said, her voice a whisper yet resolute. Silence enveloped the room as Clara remained unresponsive. She pivoted to face Orion, who remained rooted in place, his deep, dark eyes fixed on her, as if they contained the secrets to all the questions swirling in her mind. She moved in, her fingers gliding softly through his mane for what felt like the final time. At that instant, clarity washed over her, igniting a fierce determination within. She understood the path she must take. She knew she had to escape the barn, to break free from the shadows that had ensnared her for far too long. Outside, the moon hung high, its cold glow illuminating the darkness, as Clara stepped into the night. Each step was heavy with pain and regret, yet within her heart flickered a fragile hope, a whisper that one day, she might rediscover the essence of who she truly was.